Hey everyone, today with me is a good friend of mine. He's an author, a published author. He's a continuing author. He's got more things in the works. I believe he's also working on things in the silver screen. Is that right, Miles? Yeah, awesome. Everyone, my good friend Miles Shockley, author, friend, father. He's just a super stud. He's also a teacher, by the way, but he might not tell you that. What's up, Miles? How are you, bro?
Better than I deserve.
Amen. Amen. Mr. Ramsey.
I know. I love that. I love that phrase.
It's a great phrase. It really is a great phrase.
Yeah,
I've used it. I don't know. I just feel like it doesn't fit me. I don't know. Like I'm too cheesy to use it. You know what I mean? It's such a great phrase though. I'm glad you used it. It sounds good on you. So thanks again for coming. I really do appreciate your time. So just a few questions for you. I wanted to know, as you know, I've started my journey. I got my own podcast. It's something that I've been thinking about for the last 3 years. So I think you know, but you know, for me, it was the movie, the Amazon Prime movie, Without Remorse with Michael B. Jordan, right? It's a great film, but I just thought, you know, why can't we in the Christian community come up with content that's equally as well made and as equally riveting? You know what I mean?
Something like Machine Gun Preacher?
Like Machine Gun Preacher, but
okay.
You know, and I've seen stuff, but I just feel like we're lacking because there is content, but I don't think we don't have like the libraries and the selections that you have in the secular world, right? And I think that's unfortunate. And I don't know if that's out of fear or people just aren't inspired, or there's a gap there, and I don't know what that gap is, right? And if I can help close that gap, that's really what I'd like to try to do.
Well, there's a filmmaker who did the Exorcism of Emily Rose, and apparently, like, he's a Christian, but for some reason he doesn't feel convicted about creating that type of material. For him, it's showing the negative side so people believe that there's a good side. So I think it takes somebody who is called to that arena and says, you know what, the Lord's working on me in this area. I haven't been convicted like I'm doing anything wrong, but I see an opportunity to create content that's going to not only spread the gospel, but help transform lives in a way that isn't smacking you in the face. Like,
right.
You know, like you see the relationship with the characters in God. You see God behind the scenes. Just like the book of Esther, to me, is a great example. Like in the entire book of Esther, there's not one scripture where it says God said or God told her this. It only shows the relationship, God working kind of behind the scenes.
Okay.
So I think there's definitely an opportunity for filmmakers to do that. I also think that the movie, what was the movie where they were rescuing kidnapped children?
The
Angel Studios.
Sound of Silence, or no, the Sound of Happiness, right?
No, it's
is that the one that's based on the true story?
Correct.
Yeah.
That is very
Sound of Freedom.
Yes, the Sound of Freedom.
Yes,
that's kind of a good direction to be headed. To get that accomplished.
Absolutely.
And it's Without Remorse. Is that Tom Clancy?
Tom Clancy and Michael B. Jordan.
Based off Tom Clancy.
Yeah,
okay, got it.
Yep. Yeah, a book that was written in like 1984, something like that. Yeah,
gotcha.
And it's still relevant today, right? Which I was like, this is pretty fascinating. So we know my catalyst. So what I guess sparked you in to go in that direction of writing and of, you know, because I think you're even into the silver screen, right?
Yeah. Honestly, it starts with pain. Starts with unfathomable just pain that you can't endure, and trying to find a healthy way of dealing with it, especially early on. Like, and it all really started in high school. Like, I was disappointed with where my athletic career was going. And so I remember just kind of sitting down and writing, like, well, what if it happened this way?
Yeah.
What if I, spent a few summers doing this and the outcome was playing in the state championship against my friend?
Yeah.
Like, and so I began to write these stories. And so it's kind of been therapeutic for me ever since.
That's good.
I always tell people, monetize your pain.
Mm-hmm.
If you went through a really tough situation, let's say in your marriage or through your job or whatever you're trying to accomplish, it's an opportunity to monetize it. Like it's a golden nugget that God has given you.
Right.
It's a platform that He clearly wants you to use to reach out to others.
That's good.
So I mean,
That's
tons
really
of books about marriage are created because this couple struggles. Yeah.
Hard. Yeah. That's so good. Yeah, I think that's what you just said. You're applying it in your business, but I think that's ministry, and I think we all are under, especially maybe in the Christian cycles or the world, but I think we think that ministry and business are two separate things, but I mean, really, if you look at it, I think they both operate very much the same. You know what I mean? Because I mean, really, business is just about helping other people, and in the church, I mean, our greatest opportunity to help other people is people that are experiencing the same pain that we're going through.
Right.
Yeah, that's really good, Miles. Thanks, man. So that's awesome. Pain. I love that. I would have never thought of that as a motivation to start writing. That's really good. And then, so now that you have that spark, now that you have that fire, do you have a process? Is there like how do you outline? How do you brainstorm? Is there a time of day that you feel, hey, I'm at my brightest, this is when I work best? Or does it just come like a waterfall? It just hits you when it hits you?
Well, you start interviewing the characters. You get to know the characters.
Mm-hmm.
It all starts with character development.
Right.
Getting to know them, asking them questions about their past, their present, their future, their thoughts, what they like, what they dislike, what are their habits, fascinations. I actually have a process for this, and through it, the story actually starts to come to life. Because once you get to know the characters, all of a sudden there's everything you need to know about the story. So if this character, through habit, has to pull on his door handle 5 times in order to feel comfortable to walk away and go to a restaurant, that lets you know more about that character. That maybe they have some OCD tendencies, right?
Right.
Or maybe there was a situation where he left his door or she left his door unlocked and somebody rampaged through the car.
Okay.
Just through that one little detail, you get so much more story.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Wow, that's really good. And then I'm assuming, so now the kind of books that you write, have you ever thought of writing like a fiction, like a novel?
Yeah, so I'm actually working on that now, but the book that I wrote was a nonfiction piece. It was more like a how-to educational book.
Right.
Which was read this if you drive for Uber. So it was initially titled Rideshare Rockstar.
Okay.
And then I rebranded it and called it Read This If You Drive for Uber, because it was post me working in rideshare, both corporately and as a driver.
Yes, sir.
And I felt like there was such a gap in understanding between when you first start and when you're 4 years in.
Right.
And if you just had a short, simple, easy to read book that would take you a couple days to read, you would be so much better off when you started.
Yeah.
Because I've seen so many painful situations of drivers going through, just things that could have been avoided.
Right.
If they just had a little bit of knowledge that I gained over the course of those years. So I felt like I had a lot to give to that industry and to those people, to those drivers, everybody connected to that community.
Yeah.
And that's why I wrote the book.
And you were, I mean, I hate to use the word perfect, but I think you were perfectly positioned because, like you said, so when you were hired for Lyft corporately as an employee, right, a W-2 employee, did you already have the 4 years of driving experience?
No, I had maybe like 2 years.
2 years. Okay,
Yeah.
well, that's still plenty of time. Okay,
Yeah.
so you got 2 years of driving experience. And then how many years did you work for Lyft, if you don't mind my asking?
Like 3, I think.
3 years.
Yeah, about
Okay.
3 years. 2 as a temp, and then 1 as an full-on employee.
Full-on employee?
Yeah.
Awesome. And then that whole time, so once you were employed, gainfully employed by corporate, were you still driving like on the weekends or on the nights, or were you?
Yeah. So, sometimes it was difficult though, because in tech, it's everybody like hands on deck, like all the time.
Right.
And if you want to move up, you have to constantly be raising your hand.
Absolutely.
So it was very exhausting to then go out there and drive, but I would do it because I had needs.
Yeah, no,
that needed to be filled.
We all do. Yeah, absolutely. And so again, I'm going to reiterate, you were perfectly positioned because you got to see it from both sides of the coin, right? You got to see it as someone who didn't know the business or the industry per se, right? And then you got to see kind of like what the leadership was going towards, and you got to see because you dealt with drivers, right?
Correct.
You probably heard their pain points probably better than any, because who else were they going to complain to, right? And you know what I mean?
Right. And as a community associate, you're basically dealing with drivers 100% of the time.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely.
So that was that labor of love, and I'm still working
good.
on a third edition of that book because I did a second edition for drivers who were doing it during COVID, and now I'm going to do a third edition, which will kind of gear people back to where we are now,
right?
And what are the current trends? Because things have changed drastically in
the
that
new
industry.
normal. Yeah, the new normal.
Yes.
Yeah, that's good. That's good.
But yeah, so I'll do that, and then I'll be working on my fiction piece that's now 2 years in the making.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'm 3 years, so you're good. Yeah. You're in good company, Miles. No worry. So now that we're talking about time, so my question to you is, so I don't know if you know my specific the way I lay myself out. So I have a 9 to 5 Monday through Friday job, right? And I know myself, and I know that if I wait to do my work, my writing in the evening, it's not gonna get done. Something always hey babe, I don't feel good. Hey, we need to go buy this. We have a funeral. Something comes up. So I was like, well, then I need to do this in the morning. So I get up super early. I mean, really, like I don't even know. I don't think I can say crack of dawn because I think it's past that. But I get up super early and I give myself on a timer 51 minutes to write Monday through Friday, right? The weekends are the weekends. You got to sleep sometime, right? Do you have something like that? Do you have something set where you're like, hey, this is set apart for writing? Or how do you come up with that? How do you flow?
Yeah, so initially, it's just getting it all out. However it happens.
Okay.
It's doesn't have to be scheduled. It could be whenever you have free time. But then once I've got that vomit draft out and I have a target date on when I want it accomplished, then it's important to lay out some structure for myself.
Right.
But
got it.
100% agree with that. Like for some people, they can, if they don't have a deadline, then write it when you can.
Right.
But if you know that you won't write unless you plan it, then plan it. Absolutely.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. And then, so you told me, okay, so we know that you have one book and you have two editions, right? You're coming up with a third edition. Are you going to revamp the title as well?
No? It'll be the same.
It'll be the same?
Yeah.
Okay. And then, because I really like that first title. I really like the rideshare rockstar.
Man.
No, it's really good. It's really good. How did you come up with it? Like, what was there an inspiration? Did you hear or read something, or just?
Yeah. So when I first started with Lyft, that's how we would classify drivers that we felt were going to succeed. We would label them rock stars.
Got it.
And so that's what you want to do. You want to set people up to be rock stars in that, in that field. When you're trying to teach and pass down knowledge, you want drivers to be rock stars from the get go. So it's just kind of a cool way to, how Lyft was, which is very like hip and hipster and groovy and cool and your rock stars and fist bumps.
Yeah.
So it kind of plays or it stems from that culture.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's awesome. All right. And then another question I wanted to ask you is, so I have a lot of hobbies and interests that have nothing to do with writing. Like one of the things that I missed doing was when I was in the military, I used to get paid to shoot guns. Like we would go to the range and shoot stuff. And that's one of the coolest things I've ever gotten to do. You know what I mean? And that kind of helped me write, because then, a lot of people don't get that experience. They don't know what the recoil of a certain, weapon or arm feels like. So I think it kind of helps you write the intricacies, right? Yeah. Sometimes even the way it smells, or When I used to shoot the automatic weapons, like not only was the recoil really strong, like where it kicked back, but the brass would come out. It would come out like flaming hot, and it would singe you. It would burn you. You know what I mean? That kind of inspired me to write too, because I'm like, these are experiences that people who, which is probably the majority of the public, who don't get to experience this, they don't know.
Yeah, I have no idea.
You know what I mean? And I think they would be interested. They'd be like, oh, really? Before I did that, I'm like, brass. Why would brass burn you? Like, how does that
Right.
doesn't happen? So, are there any hobbies or interests that have nothing to do with writing that kind of inspire you?
Yeah. Well, first off, write what you know. Write what you know.
Okay.
And if you don't know it, write it as if you have to present it to a courtroom.
Okay.
And if you have to present something to a courtroom, believe me, you're going to have documents upon documents upon documents. You are going to go through your exhibits. You are going to be the foremost expert in whatever that is.
Yeah.
So if you've lived it, perfect.
Yeah.
If you haven't, you better be, Sherlock Holmes.
Yes. That's good.
You're investigating whatever that is to the T.
Right.
And so another thing is, you have to live life. You have to, like you said, go to the gun range and shoot and understand what it's like is going to be the best way for you to correlate that information from personal experience than you just kind of reading about it. So absolutely.
Oh, that's
you
good.
You have to enjoy life. You have to travel, try things, fall in love, have your heart broken. And all that's going to go into your writing. And it has nothing really to do with writing. It's just living life.
Yeah. You know, and I'm glad you said that, because when you say write what you know, Warren Buffett, the Oracle of Omaha, he has something, nothing to do with writing, but he says, invest in what you know. Right. And I don't know if you think, so the way I see it, to me, writing is an investment, because you're pouring, and like you said, you got to do your due diligence, right? If you're going to go to a courtroom, and I've never had to present in a courtroom, thank God, but when I've given a class, like on a research paper in college, I do my work, because you don't want to go up there and you don't want to come off as a buffoon, right? Right.
Exactly.
At a minimum, or at least I don't want people to think I'm unprepared or I didn't do the work that needed to be done. But that's really good. So write about what you know. Just write the way you would invest, right? And if you're going to write about something that you're not invested in, how good of a writing is that going to be?
Exactly.
You know what I mean? So that's really good. And live your life. I like that. Thank you. And then the last question that I have for you, Miles, and then we can open it up for whatever you want to share. Who are your influences? And if they're not authors, I'm cool with that. I want to know, Miles, the person, more than Miles, the writer.
Well, when I was like 10 or 11 years old, I came across this random book called Meg.
Okay.
And it was the first time I just kind of found a book that I was interested in and just randomly read it and fell in love with it.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's basically a movie about finding a giant shark in the marina trenches in the Pacific. And then it comes up to the surface and it wreaks havoc on our ocean ecosystem and the planet. And the whole point is they have to find this thing and kill it, because it's going to kill everything.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is it kind of like...
So it's written by a guy named Steve Alton, who wrote the book as a truck driver.
Really?
So he would drive, and then whenever he would come to a pit stop, he would just keep writing the book.
That's awesome.
So part of his story is what made me even like the book more.
Yeah. Wow. So do you know when was the book published? Do you know? Is it an old book?
This was like the 90s.
Oh, nice. 90s. In the 90s. That's crazy.
So then when I went to film school, some of my couple last years in film school, I wanted to get the rights to it, option the rights.
Yeah.
So I reached out to the author and found out that they had literally just sold the rights to Disney.
Okay.
And then Disney shelved it and didn't do anything with it for years because we didn't have the technology to make the shark look realistic.
Right.
And then all of a sudden I saw Jason Statham and the movie Meg.
I remember that movie, yes. I
And
saw
now
that
they
movie.
have a sequel as well.
Really?
Yeah, so
Wow.
I felt bitter about that.
Yeah.
Needless to say.
It feels like a missed opportunity, right?
But
Wow.
I mean, there's little old me in Chicago, film student. But the good news is that clearly I had good taste.
Mm-hmm.
And so even if people steal your ideas, you come up with an idea,
Yeah.
just get it out.
Absolutely.
Just go for it, because the way that our society is now, ideas and advancements are coming so fast that you just have to go for it.
Yeah.
Because if you sit on it, somebody else is going to get it.
Right.
But at the same time, if somebody else gets it,
Mm-hmm.
it's okay, because that confirms that you have good taste. Your ideas are good.
Mm-hmm.
So it should encourage you.
For sure. That's awesome. That's great. And it's funny because, and I'm so glad you used Steve Alton, right?
Yes.
I'm so glad that you used him, because if you would have said he's just another writer, I would have been like, oh, okay, I kind of would have shelved it, But when you're telling me that this guy's a trucker, if you're from Hollywood and you know that the guy who's coming is a trucker, they're probably not going to want to listen, because they're like, well, what do you know about the sea? What do you know? You know what I mean? But that's really not fair. It's like, if he's got these creative juices, and I'm glad you had enough wherewithal to be like, hey, this is actually pretty good, right?
Yeah.
To the point where you wanted to. So I hope that actually inspires you, and I hope as more good ideas come up, I hope you just see them as opportunities or as lessons, even if you don't get it, right?
Right.
So again, I'm going to take your advice, and I'm going to keep jumping up on this podcast thing. But I hope you do the same thing. I hope,
Absolutely.
you see ideas and just jump on them. And I think nowadays, I mean, yes, sometimes you lack the finances or whatever the initial investment is. But I mean, there's another podcaster, and I don't remember his name, but he just said, just start with where you're at. If all you have is yourself and a phone, you got more than enough to get started.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
100%.
So again, thank you for coming here. And then, is there a link? Is there, do you have a way where people can follow you?
Yeah.
Can we get your book? What do we have?
Yeah, if you have somebody, or somebody that you love, you care about, that's doing Uber, Lyft, or whatever, you can get the book for them at lulu.com.
Okay.
Just type in my name, Miles Shockley, or read this if you drive for Uber. It's going to come up, and it's going to be an ebook.
Gotcha.
So I prefer the ebooks instead of print, because drivers ain't going to sit there and hold up a print, but they will pull it up on their phone.
Yeah.
And read at least a couple chapters.
Yeah.
So in the book, I actually have a cheat sheet, so they can get all the key points.
Oh,
and
nice.
just get straight to it.
Not like when you say cheat sheet, is it? Do you have it to where it's like a hyperlink where they can just click it and it takes them there, or how do you have it?
So right in the beginning of the book,
Yeah.
you'll see in the listing of the chapters, you'll see cheat sheet. So then just go to this page.
Just go to that page.
And then I mentioned it in the beginning of the book. Like, if you don't have time to read this, just go to the cheat sheet and read this. You're going to be better off than 99% of other drivers just starting off.
Okay, that's awesome. And then, so now that we're talking about your book, and now that I know that technically it's like a second book, right? I mean, I know it's a second edition, but you have to publish. When you're just going to revamp it, do you look for other people, or did you just, hey, this system worked, let's just go with what we have? Is that?
No, I mean, you can, usually authors will just add more context.
Okay.
Or add some information, or update information that's outdated.
Okay.
So it just allows you, for the second edition, to just present a more updated version of the book.
Gotcha.
Especially if it's an informational how-to book. Everything's changing so fast. You could come out with an addition to your book every year if it's a nonfiction style book like this is.
Right. Okay, that's awesome. And were there sections, so from the first one to the second one, were there sections that you, like, hey, this, like, I have to remove this, or did you just modify, right? What was the...
Yeah, I think I did more of adding to it.
Adding? Okay.
Yeah, I did more adding than anything.
Okay.
There really wasn't much that I took away, because I think giving drivers as much information as possible is crucial.
Okay.
Yeah, I may have it was really just modifying stuff.
Okay.
Like the Acura MDX is not the best vehicle anymore.
Right.
Now you can get like a Tesla Model X, and that's going to be an awesome car.
Yeah.
Right. So
Absolutely.
little stuff like that.
That's awesome. And then you were the one who taught me. You said, George, and if I say it wrong, please correct me. But you said, George, there's no such thing as good writing. There's only good rewriting.
100%.
Right?
100%.
So, and I'm going to live with that, because that just, to me, that's just telling me, just get it out. Like whatever's in you, just get it out. Don't worry what it looks like. And the other day I was actually, so I came from culinary school, right? I'm a chef. So I looked at the process of what it looks like to make a chef's knife. It's a lengthy process. You know what I mean?
Wow.
And I mean, it almost takes like 7 to 10 steps. And the first time you see like this sheet of or ore of metal, whatever you want to call it, it's not pretty. There's no handle. It's got nothing, right? And then they finally build it. It doesn't have a handle, but you can see the shape. Then they add the handle. Then they drill some holes. So forth and then all through, and there goes fire, there goes pressure. You got to cool it down. You got to burn it up again. And then finally, at the 20th step, you finally give it that edge where it's sharp, right? Where it's kind of what you want your writing to be, right? You want it to be sharp to the point. You want it to cut through stuff. So that what you told me, those words you said to me, they really made me think of a knife, because I'm like, that it is a process. You can't. And I think the hardest process is just getting that sheet of metal out and be like, here, I've come up with this. Can you help me, right?
Especially one that you're like making in private.
Yeah.
It's hard to then present it to the world as you're building it.
Yeah.
Because it's like the criticism is sometimes hard to hear.
Yeah. But I mean, it is what it is, right? And another thing that I've heard, I'm sure it's a quote, but I don't know how I'm going to rephrase it, but there's two kinds of people. There's the people that do, and there's the people that talk about the doers. I'd rather be a doer.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
100%.
So let's just do it. And then last thing that I'd like from you. So since you gave me that quote, is there a quote that always inspires you, that makes you, hey, like when you're feeling down or something, it's what gets you up. Like, what, this person's right. Let's do this.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think in my everyday walk, understanding that that through Christ all things are possible, like
Amen.
Philippians 4:13.
Yes.
That's it.
All
like,
things are possible. Yes, sir.
The joy of the Lord is my strength. Like that is my DNA.
Yes, sir.
And then on the surface, what I always remind myself is that there's always room for the best. Meaning, if you walk into a grocery store, and I think Tom Bilyeu said this before.
Yeah.
But if you walk into a grocery store and look at the candy bar aisle, for example.
Yeah.
There's Snickers, there's Hershey's, there's all these different brands, and none of them were scared to start. They didn't say, "Oh man, Hershey is up in here.
Right.
There's no way we can do this."
Yeah.
It's like, no, if your stuff is good,
they'll
there's
make
room for you.
Yeah. Your gifting will make room for you, right? Amen, brother.
Exactly.
That's so good. Hey, Miles, was there anything else that you wanted to add or drop on us? Anything else or?
George gives excellent shoulder massages, and that is going to make my writing that much better. So that's the real reason why I came over here, is to get a nice manly shoulder massage from George.
Pray for my brother. Anyways, thanks again for coming, for being my first interview. I appreciate you as a brother and as a friend. As soon as your stuff comes out, I'm gonna post it. Whatever links you have from lulu.com, just send it to me, and I'm gonna put it so that everyone can see it in the comment section. Okay?
Thank you, bro.
Miles,
Love you, man.
Love you, Papa. Thank you.
Thanks.
God bless everyone. Have a good night.